Okay, we're recording.
We're back! Oh my god!
Feels like such a long time,
Yeah,
even though season two technically was finished, like releasing in March, just only like
yeah,
3 months ago, but we recorded everything a year ago.
yeah, yeah. I've seen you in person since we recorded last.
Yeah.
A lot has I've had a lot of things going on, so it feels like a really long time ago. You also have been busy.
Yeah. We need to like do like a catch up on life stuff and also stuff we've been watching as
Yeah.
well.
I mean, stuff that I'm watching is like stuff we're gonna be talking about this season.
I might bring them up in this episode, but yeah, I think by the time this season will start airing, I'll be in like full production for my master's thesis film. I'm currently in
Yeah.
early pre-production, which has been stressful, partly because no one answers my messages. What are some of the stuff that you've been up to and you've been watching?
Oh. Let's see. I since our recording last, uh I have gotten more involved with the my local movie theater scene, and like media scene. I'm from Seattle and I volunteer with three of the different like Seattle independent like movie related institutions. So um I volunteer concessions, uh crossing my fingers one of these days I'll get to learn to project at the Grand Illusion, which is um the longest it's the movie theater that's been the independent movie theater that's been open the longest in Seattle. And the reason it's able to keep running is because it's volunteer run. And I also um, have done some volunteering with the Northwest Film Forum, which is also an independent arts hub. And I also volunteer for Scarecrow Video, which is like one of the largest, if not the largest, physical or like public physical media collection in the world. Um, I don't know by the time if this comes out if they'll still be if the fundraiser will still be open, probably, but um they are struggling and it's really sad and stressful
Mm.
because there's like such an important institution and like I volunteer my time. There's I can't really like donate. I'm not, I can't donate very much, but yeah. Uh they have like so many movies and like VHS, DVD. I think they might even have other they might also have even more like obscure like ways to watch films. I don't They might have Laserdisc, maybe. I don't know. Um they're crazy. It's very cool. Um and that's where I checked out the movie that we watched for today. I'm also checking out a bunch of I try to go often to get movies from them. Gosh, but what have I been watching? That's what you asked too.
Yeah. Or what have you watched like in the span of time between the season one and season two and season three of Camp Pod.
Um, well, um, I'm trying to think of things that I've like watched at the end of last year. Um, I know I have a better sense of what I've been watching film and television wise because I finally have gotten a Letterboxd and I've also gotten a Serials. Um, and I love making lists. And so I've been making a list of all the things, all the movies I've seen this year at least. Um, I've seen, let's see, including the movie I watched for today, I've seen 59 movies so far this year. And it is June. So I am hoping that I'll be able to have seen 120 movies this year. And I'm kind of also aiming to see if I can see 100 movies that I've never seen before this year by the end of this year. Um, what are some good stuff? I've been watching a lot of like gay people doing crime. Um, I watched The Talented Mr. Ripley like right at the beginning of the year, and that's a film that has not left my mind. Um, I yeah, uh, Matt Damon is so good in it. Like he's so good.
Have you seen
Uh,
the video of him at Pride?
what? No.
I'm not sure if I can find it. I could send it to you later, but like a week ago there was like a video of him at Pride.
This year? Oh
Yes.
my god. I
Whatever's happening between him and Ben Affleck for the
yeah.
past 30 years.
Like I don't I'm uh I don't know how I feel about shipping real people. I think I do it when it's funny. And like they've got something. It's interesting. Have you been reading or writing any RPF lately, Fabiola?
I have been watching a lot of the House of the Dragon cast interviews, and I feel like that counts as RP.
Oh, do you watch fan edits like comps of them too? Because
Yeah.
that's a kind of I've seen some fan edits that have that like not just for the characters but for the actors. It's that kind of like gay coded like look at how they interact.
Yeah, also the cast of House of the Dragon specifically has this like weird energy of like these people are more than friends. All of
Yeah,
them.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah,
I
that's
mean,
one of the things I've been watching, and now season 2 just began and I've been watching it with Saffron, live Saffron reaction. Last week was the iconic blood and cheese episode, and I got to see Saffron react to it live.
how did it live up to the hype?
To me,
My reaction, I mean, not the episode.
yeah, it was fun to watch you mouth agape, hand on chest for like 3 minutes straight.
I felt for them. I mean, not the, the murderers, but um why am I blanking on her name? Helena, the people's princess.
The people's queen. She's a
The people's queen.
queen.
That's right. She's a queen
That's
now.
the queen.
That is the queen. But I also like our other queen. I like all the queens.
Yes. I think
I'm
every character in this show is so iconic.
yeah.
Yeah, and in between the seasons of the podcast, I watched The Borgias, which is really good.
Oh,
It's so
yeah.
much fun. Just
That could be a future
yes,
episode, huh?
yes,
Not this season, but
yeah. It's so much fun, and I've been begging Saffron to watch it.
I mean, I probably will.
Also, one last thing of stuff we've been watching or slash absorbing, because I don't want to say consuming. I don't like that word.
Yeah.
Um,
Engaging with.
yes, the Brat album. I'm obsessed with
Oh,
Brat. I'm obsessed with the rollout. And last night, the Girl So Confusing remix with Lord dropped.
I have not. I've only watched the 360 music video.
The remix with Lord is like earth shattering. It
Okay.
is crazy. It's crazy.
It's camp.
It's just shockingly emotional.
Okay. Okay. Interesting.
The
Um
rest of Brat is camp. But yeah, something about the Lord's lyrics.
mm,
It was crazy.
I've also oh, I've been watching more anime. um I because before this I the only anime I had ever seen is Neon Genesis Evangelion, which I think is a masterpiece. Um it's so good. It I watched at just the right point in my life. But I'm almost done with Dungeon Meshi, and I also watched Yuri on Ice. And there's two videos that I have that are really funny back to back, which is my friend Lucy was like, "Hey, you should watch this show with me," and I was like, "Okay, I'll watch it. I've heard a lot about it." And so she started playing like the first episode and was singing along to the theme song and was like so like having such a good time, and I was like, thought it was kind of funny, so I took a video of her like singing along to the theme song, and I was like, okay, I don't know what this is. This is oh, okay, she's like singing and is really into this, and I don't, I understand that hype, but I was just kind of thinking she looked silly at the time. And then when we watched the finale together, I took a video because I was also singing and dancing along to the theme song. And so from first episode, just her singing it, to the finale of both of us singing and like
It
doing
got
fake
you.
figure. Yeah,
It got
it got
you.
me. um,
Speaking of
so
Yuri.
speaking of Yuri,
Speaking of
yes,
Yuri.
yes, I was thinking, it was like, is this going to be our segue?
Yes,
Um,
it has to be. It
what
has to be.
are we watching today, Fabiola?
So today we're going to discuss the absolute camp classic that is Showgirls,
Yes! I'm so
directed by Paul
happy!
Verhoeven, one of my filmmaking idols, Paul
Literally
Verhoeven.
king. King.
This is
Uh,
not my favorite Verhoeven of that I've seen though.
okay, interesting. Because, so, I. Oh, something I watched recently. I watched Basic Instinct recently. Me film. That is a me film. I had such a good time. But having rewatched Showgirls and was thinking about it, the Verhovens I've seen are Starship Troopers, Benedetta, Showgirls, Basic Instinct. Showgirls to me is the one that's like the most interesting. It's got the most like stuff to chew on for me. And it's such a film. Like
Yeah.
it's like people say that it's bad taste. It's gorgeous. It's a gorgeous, glittery, beautiful film. So anyway, I don't know how I was very like shocked and stunned the first time we watched Showgirls, and I didn't really know what to think. Having rewatched it, I'm fucking love it. I think it's a fucking masterpiece. I'm so excited to talk about it with you today.
Yeah, I definitely see the argument. I feel like we're gonna find this argument in this episode of it being his most interesting film because it's his most what exactly is going on here film.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
yeah, my favorite of his that I've seen is Flesh and Blood, which is a me movie.
Oh, yeah. That's the one that's like, that's early 80s?
Yes.
Yeah. So it's like right your era of aesthetic.
Yes, it's an early 80s, late Middle Ages period film where everyone is awful.
Yeah. That is a
He
you
did that
film.
for me.
Yeah, I think Basic Instinct is the most like me, like it's the one that I enjoy the experience watching and it would be my favorite, but I think Showgirls is his best. And I'm ready to defend this movie with my life. um and so okay. What what is the history behind this film? What is your history with this film too, since you were the one who first showed it to me? Um, what what background can you bring to this discussion?
Yeah, so like as someone who like really likes to watch about film, I had like known about it for years and years, but I didn't get around to watching it until like 2021, I think it was when we watched it. It was almost going to be in my like a camp special study project thing for undergrad. And yeah, that's basically my history
Wait,
with it.
when we watched it together, like on my laptop, that was your first time watching it?
I think so.
Oh, I guess you had. I remember that Halloween was when I
I
first
think I
learned
maybe
about
just had
Showgirls
more knowledge about it.
of it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember you telling me about the Halloween costume you saw where it was the Showgirls poster. And I was like, what do you mean? But it's a very iconic poster.
Yeah.
With just the one
One
leg.
leg. One leg. Yeah, so basically my like additional information source for this episode is a like roundtable sort of article for Film Quarterly from the early 2000s. And it's like various film scholars having their own like little essays on it.
Mm. Who's the screenwriter again?
It's Paul Verhoeven and Joe Esterhaus.
Right. And he's worked with Verhoeven a bunch, right?
Yes, I think he also co-wrote Basic Instinct.
Yeah. I also think he co-wrote Starship Troopers.
Possibly.
Okay, wait. I did read one article because I was trying to find what the fuck, if there's some explanation to doggy chow. So I did read one article that's a Hollywood Reporter how 2018 they interviewed a bunch the screenwriter Joe Esterhaus, basically talking like about how I don't he doesn't say interviewed a bunch of I don't he doesn't say what the profession of all the people that he interviewed was, but just like 50 young women who worked in Las Vegas for research for the film. So, like,
And apparently they like barely utilized that research anyways.
well, he did his research. He at least tried. But the like the locations, some of the locations they filmed at were actual like strip clubs and like, right?
Yeah, I definitely recognize a lot of the Vegas stuff from like things I know about Vegas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We should probably give a plot overview for people who have
Yeah.
never don't who didn't know what this film was about, like me, you know. What would you say the plot is? What
The plot is, and I feel like it's one of the interesting things about this movie is that its plot is basically the regular like rise and fall of a star that like a lot of the like you could call it the backstage film genre. Some
Mm,
other examples of this are like All About Eve or Gold Diggers of 1933 or 32.
Valley of the Dolls.
Yes, Valley of the Dolls is also another one of those. And it's basically, instead of it being like a journey into Hollywood or a journey into Broadway, it's a journey into Vegas showgirl dancing.
Hmm.
And the way that it's treated, it's like the most aspirational thing ever. Like one of the funniest
Yeah.
parts to me is how they're like, yeah, Paula Abdul, Latoya, they could be the stars of this show. We could get them to be in this topless Vegas show.
Yeah.
And
See,
our leading lady is Nomi Malone, played
yes.
by Elizabeth Berkley, who is then known for being in Saved by the Bell, the
Yep.
sitcom. And I think this might be one of the most aggressive performances in film.
I would say
She's
th-
very
okay.
she's very
Kinetic. That's a word I would describe her performance. She's always moving. And the thing is, for the sequences that are involving dancing and stripping and performing, she's perfect. It's that movement
The
and
energy never
energy,
stops. It
it
never
never stops.
stops.
And it I think the main thing that we discussed in our very first episode on camp, we discussed this film in the difference between the two main female leads, in that Gina Gershon plays the
Crystal.
Crystal Crystal Connors, who is like the main star of this like show, Las Vegas show. And then Nomi is trying to become her, have her role. And I think a lot of people involved in the production of this film thought that this was like going to be a really serious introspective piece of like work.
Elizabeth Berkley.
Elizabeth Berkley and the screenwriter. Let me find this quote too from this article that I read. Okay, well this isn't a quote from Esther Haas, but it's a quote from this article that's like summarizing that he truly imagined the film being gritty and grounded in the real life experiences of the exotic dancers he'd met. So it's
There's
like,
nothing
okay,
realistic here.
no, and that's then the thing that makes Elizabeth Berkley's performance so camp, is that I think she thinks that she's in a serious dramatic movie.
She's also clearly wants to be taken seriously as an actress and is clearly putting a lot of effort and care maybe into the role,
Yeah.
which then just comes off as doing everything all the time.
And I read some Letterboxd reviews that were like, you know, fuck all the people who think that she can't act. She can act. And I'm like, I think that she can act. I just there is like I can tell that the way that she is acting is it's a different there's like different intentions in the way that she is performing than Gina Gershon is performing, who just is like just feels laid back and is just having fun and is just soaking it all up and just like because that's what makes it naive camp, is that you're like, this is fun and this is really interesting, but you didn't mean to be doing this kind of performance. I love both of their performances, but it's just, the energy is so different.
Yeah, I'm bringing up a quote from the round table that says Nomi literally throws herself into everything, whether it's eating fries, performing a lap dance, walking off a stage, having sex, or pouting. Her lunatic frenzy is evidently supposed to signal passion, but her reactions to everyday events and perceived slights mark her as a candidate for the Thorazine rather than the lead in a show. Berkeley's much maligned performance is nothing if not consistent in its glassy-eyed aggression.
Yeah. It's very like, it's so meta when you actually think about the characters and then the actors performing them.
Yeah, like Nomi
Where
wants to be taken very seriously as a person and as a dancer, and so does Elizabeth Berkley. So in a way, this film is kind of about Elizabeth Berkley trying to be taken seriously, and it kind
yeah,
of backfires.
it sucks because I know that it was hard on her career after this.
Yeah.
But it's like, people just need to cast her in more movies where she can play that kind of role. um
There's this one moment where she's kind of like she's kind of like Kubrick staring.
well, to me, what stands out is always the pool sex scene.
She's being waterboarded.
She's thrashing. She's thrashing.
She's having a seizure while being waterboarded.
Yeah, I also think that there's something about when I mentioned like it feels kind of meta, this like Nomi and Elizabeth Berkley. I feel like maybe the whole Versace, like where she mispronounces like Versace, like that also feels like a kind of interesting thing where it's like, oh, there's this desire for like, wealth and opulence and fashion and like being,
and also like class designer status.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. That's what that dress is like. It's a representative like class status, but like doesn't understand it, like doesn't even know how to pronounce the brand name. Feels like a kind of metaphor for a way to read the character and a way to read like all of the interactions in this film.
Nice dress.
Thanks. It's a Versace.
It's Versace.
What?
Versace. It's pronounced Versace.
Oh.
And then also moving on to Crystal. Crystal knows how the game is played, knows the stakes, and knows that it's like, we're all whores. Because that's what this movie's about. I would say that this movie is about...
And Gina Gershon herself, like, knows exactly what's going on in this movie, which is like reflective in the character.
Yeah. But
as you were saying,
I was gonna say that this movie is sex. It's about sex.
Yeah.
And it's about power.
Also very much about gender.
Yeah. Well, but gender and sex are tied to each other.
Yeah. At least in this movie, very, very much so.
Yeah, I think societally it's still the case about at least in the entertainment industry too.
Yeah.
I think my favorite Letterboxd review that I read, which I will definitely get a link to that we can post in the show notes. It's by Possum, I think is the name.
Oh yeah, I follow them.
That review and also friend of the show and also friend of the show. Nicole's review, but two favorite reviews. But yes, Persephone Possum. they started their review with the Janelle Monáe lyrics.
Yeah.
Everything is sex except sex, which is power. And I was like, oh my God, that's what this movie is about. They're absolutely right.
It's also about capitalism.
Yeah. Yeah. Like to survive, you have to sell your body. And no matter what you're doing, as a woman, as a sexually, like, as like anyone who is deemed to have a body that could be sold to needs to be selling it to survive. Body that could be sold. And Nomi is like rejecting that the entire time. It's just like, what do you mean? Like, no, I'm a dancer. Like, doesn't want to have to like be perceived like, she doesn't, she's like, I'm not a hooker, I'm not a whore, but she's doing a topless show in Las Vegas. And
also in a way that she manages to get different opportunities is through sex.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about the whole movie, so I might as well just spoil the ending now. In that, so basically the plot goes is that she's trying to get this like lead role, and she ends up sabotaging Crystal, pushing her downstairs, then gets Crystal's spot, and then an awful, like, her best friend gets like violently raped, and she's finally like, that's her come to senses moment to realize that like this entertainment, this business is horrible, and so she goes and beats up the guy and then leaves Las Vegas. And that was my memory of, when she gets in the car, this guy asks her, did you win? And she says, yes. And he's like, what did you win? And she said, myself. And it's this kind of like moment of empowerment where she's like, yeah, I've got agency, like, back over my body. And that's how I remember.
And then she takes out the knife and asks for her suitcase.
That's true. But so okay, my memory of when we first watched this movie was that it was like, I thought that it was trying to be this message that it's like, she escaped this cycle, this world where it's like, you have to use your body, and that's so gross that you have to use your body, and so she's escaped it. But watching it again, I was like, that's stupid. Like, look, we still live in a world where
she's still gonna bring that cycle to Hollywood. That's what the ending is about.
Exactly. That's the thing. I forgot that the last shot of the movie is a sign that says Los Angeles. And I was like, oh.
Well, she's holding this guy at knife point.
Well, that road sign makes the whole movie work for me.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like the ending is the best part of the movie, and the part that, like, quote unquote, works the most. And is also like very classically Verhoeven, in the sense that it's like darkly optimistic, but also it's bad for the world.
See, that's kind of the thing, is that I think it's like she will always have to look, until there is fundamental change to the world, you are going to have to, as a woman, you are going to have to use your sexuality at some point to survive. Yeah. And that's fucked up and dark, but if you know that, you do have power, and you do have, you can, I think for me, how I read it is like saying like, oh, I won myself. To me, that's not what that would truly mean, is realizing, oh, I understand that I will probably have to use my body, but I know that I can use my body and I will use it to my advantage. It's not, I will never have to use my body again. I am free of this industry, which I think is what I thought the ending was the first time I watched this movie. And watching it again, I was like, no, because she's headed to Los Angeles. She's headed to Hollywood. This is a meta movie. This is the industry.
Yeah, and what to me is really camp about this film is how like we can talk about like all these things that the movie is in a way talking about, but the text and the script of the film itself, it's very chat GPT. It's very nonsense.
Okay, yeah. I can think
it's
of some
like
moments,
if you
but
ran every single like A Star Is Born backstage film, a script through Chat GPT plus a lot of sexploitation scripts, you would get this movie.
Because it's so cliche and so on the nose and so melodramatic.
It utilizes so many cliches, but it's also so weird. And like
Okay.
it's
So
very
what are you
cliched, but it's also very like there was so much effort put into production. Like it's a well-made movie that is also kind of nonsense. And that's what's so interesting to me about it.
Okay, I'm curious what you find nonsense about it, because like maybe it's just that like you're like you also are like, yeah, it's a different alternate reality, and you step in and it's this weird alternate reality, and that's the world that you're living in to me. But like I'm like, yeah, so like I know that it's like this weird alternate reality, so when I step into the film, I just kind of everything works for me. So I'm like having a harder time trying to be like, well, what is weird? What do you think doesn't work?
Yeah, I feel like if you like really like immerse yourself in the film, it doesn't feel as weird, but like as like studying the film, it's like a movie that exists within a movie. It does not feel like a real movie. It
Okay,
feels
but give me examples, Fabiola.
like how the strip club has this like cabaret act. And how like highly gendered everything is. Like every woman in this film is basically either like a sex worker or a service worker, and every man is this very rich businessman in a suit. Like everything is
everything
But
is
we have the gay dancers. We have the gay dancers.
We have a couple.
Yes.
We have a couple of those male gay dancers. So, but I see your point.
And we also have the choreographer named Gay.
Yeah. Yeah.
And also a lot of the dialogue is so weird, like specifically the doggy chow scene.
Yeah. Yeah, it's like, what are they referring to? Is it...
What exactly are they talking about? And also they consistently talk about nails, which I do understand what the nails represent, but it's also so weird how much nails get brought up.
I mean, I think it's like, that's supposed to be like, it's part of someone's look. It's part of the thing that someone sees about someone. But it is true that like if you're gonna comment, like the nails aren't usually the first thing that people notice.
Do you like my nails?
Not as nice as yours. Maybe I'll help you with yours sometime. If you want.
Isn't that nice of you, darling?
What are friends for?
On second thought, I'm not sure I want you to do mine. I'm getting a little too old for that hoary look.
Also, like the general energy of Nomi being like very main character vibes. Like
that
she
everyone
immediately
loves her.
everyone loves her. She immediately
Yeah.
makes friends. Molly's personality is she's Nomi's friend.
Yeah.
James is like, there is something special about her.
But see, I also think that James, I like the way that we also get glimpses is that the world keeps on moving without Naomi. Because when she goes to his show, because he's like, oh, he makes this song, he writes this song for her to do this performance.
And everyone boos his show for some reason.
Well, because it's at a strip club and he's like just putting on a show.
I
think
think
that's
it's
why
at
they're
a
doing
strip
it.
club. I think it was at the club that they were in, like when they first met.
Oh. Well, yeah. But everyone wants sex. And that isn't sex, it's art. So people don't want it. That's how I read that scene. But I was also going to say is that he like, you know, she's like the other one of the other performers at who was, you know, working at the same strip club as her originally ends up being like his main star, and she finds out they're getting married because she's pregnant. And it's like, so it's like life is continuing on even though, you know, Nomi's living this life. So it's not that
I
it's
do
like
really
completely
like the sense of grimness that this movie has, even though it's like super loud and colorful. Like
oh my God.
everyone's lives get ruined in some way, or they don't turn out the way they planned.
I mean, the thing is that it's violent. You know what I just clicked for me? Is that's also the reason I love Assassination Nation.
Also why I love a lot of movies.
Yeah, but like I just like I the brutality of like Molly's rape was really, it's really hard to watch, but I'm glad that it's included because that's real. And like there is, these women have to use, you know, that, yeah, you have to do sex work to survive. Like Nomi, we find out that she was an orphan and ran away from foster care, and the way she like, you know, was able to survive.
It's also like why she keeps insisting that she's not a hooker.
Yeah. And that's why she carries a knife on her, you know. She has to protect herself, but also she is able to, you know, use, like, it's sad, and that's the, you know, this capitalist heteropatriarchy, this fucked up culture that we live in, that like, oh, that's a way to work, and that it can be dangerous, but it's also real and it's honest. And I appreciate that it's so, that it is beautiful, but it's also brutal. And anyway, I think that's also like, Assassination Nation is, you know, a beloved film to both of us. It's how we became friends, really.
Yeah.
And it's also very like, so like, it's not real. Like everything is so exaggerated and heightened in that. And it's also really brutal at times. There is an attempted rape scene in Assassination Nation. It's bloody and gory, and there's like, you know, hate crimes. It's like, it's dark, but I think it works because that's also how the world is, and like it's showing that with honesty. And I think that's what Showgirls does as well. Is
Yeah,
that
to me that's like one of the pillars of camp, and what camp does best a lot of the time is using these heightened worlds and heightened modes of existence to do something really dark.
yeah.
Because like Nomi is technically this very dark character, but the way Elizabeth Berkley like so earnestly wants to do a good job at playing this character, she's always like doing something to the extreme, and all the emotions are extreme. Like quite literally in 1 minute she's like laughing and having fun, and the next moment she's just violently yelling at someone.
Also think
Yeah.
that
I also
something
think
I
that
put down that
was like something I put down that was like one of the like, oh, this is kind of a layer of artifice and performance, but that is also a truth about the world, was the conversation when that new performer gets introduced to the strip club, where her real name is Penny, but she's given the stage name Hope, and
It's so on the nose, it's great.
yeah, I can't remember what Al, he's like their manager, I guess. He's like basically says like they want,
and Al goes from being like this antagonistic figure, but then towards the end he's like a father figure.
yeah. But his line is something like, you know, they want to fuck a penny, they want to fuck a girl with class, you know.
They want hope, literally. They want hope.
Yeah, it's, and you know, I
like that's the kind of vibe that this movie has in terms of storytelling.
yeah,
It's quite literally just telling you they want hope. Like this thing, one of the like much discussed camp aspects of this film is how it's just so loud about its messaging,
yeah,
which is kind of part of what makes it feel like not real. Like
yeah.
it's just telling you everything, but there's also this like weird undercurrent of like bad vibes and cruelty that you have to dig to get to, which is also a part of camp.
That kind of like it. There's two telegraphic visuals. What that I'm thinking of that you're saying? That kind of like one telegraphic. They're right after each other. What is going on? So one is that one pool sex scene. They're right after each other. Actually, something. So one is so
waterboarding
pool sex scene. Yeah, I was so caught up on that. Something that I had forgotten. So I was so caught up on that. Seizure. Yeah, I was so caught up on that outdoor pool that I had forgotten that. There's this amazing shot when they're headed out towards the pool where it's Zach, the character's name is Zach, turns
That's
on...
Paul Atreides. That's Lisan Al-Gaib.
Well, David Lynch's...
Yes. Kyle MacLachlan, who has
I always think
great
Twin
social
Peaks.
media presence. Whatever is Gen Zer is running his social media.
Also, side note, his bangs are fucking ridiculous in this film.
He literally looks like emo Tobey Maguire in Spider-Man 3.
But anyway, he turns on the lights, and so it's Las Vegas. He has a pool, outdoor pool, and there's palm trees.
I was gonna bring this
on
up.
The lights.
I was
and
gonna
it's
bring
the
this
palm
up.
tree lights. Like, what a fucking visual that is! To be like, here's the real thing, but we're going to make an icon of this real thing in neon lights and outline the real thing in neon lights.
And that's why the setting of Vegas is so perfect, and like so perfect within the context of camp. In the sense that Vegas is basically, like, at least the iconic parts of Vegas, they're basically this like highly manufactured city. Like the whole thing is hotels. You're basically indoors the entire time you're there. like one of the locations where they're at in this movie is like one of the hotels where it kind of looks like they're outdoors, but they're not.
Isn't that the Caesar?
Possibly.
I've never been to Vegas.
I've also never been.
I've watched Sophia Nygaard.
I've also watched that one. It's so good. Also watched the one where they try all the foods from different restaurants in Vegas.
But I mean, yeah, like Vegas is camp because it's you have all these like, oh, you have the Eiffel Tower, you have the Sphinx, you have all these things that aren't actually the things, they're just replicas.
It's extremity and vice and indulgence.
Yeah. And all this brightness and color is, you know, just a like cover for addiction and you know, violence and these things that are, you know, can be really nasty.
And I think that's what's great about Vegas conceptually. Like conceptually and like as a point of analysis, it's so good. And one of the excerpts from the round table is the Vegas of Showgirls is the America imagined by so many Europeans, fast, cheap, artificial, transient, a world where stupid people have moronic dreams of fame and are willing to cripple their competitors to achieve them. Leaving the theater after screening 2 of Showgirls, one begins to wonder, is the film bad or just highly, highly stylized? And how would I be able to tell the difference?
I feel like this is a film where you need to discuss it to understand it.
Yeah.
Because
I feel like that's what has made it so enduring amongst like film critics and film scholars. Which is like we've kind of like talked around this, but yeah, the vibe of this film is what exactly is going on here. Like you don't know where the naive ends and the deliberate begins. And I feel like that's what makes it like one of the landmark films of camp, because it blurs the lines between those 2 types of camp.
I think about what we've talked about before about how camp is political but not moral.
Yeah.
And I think that this is a movie where people think that there is a moral. Like someone could watch this movie and go, "Oh, sex is bad." Or like, you know, oh, like ambition
these
is bad.
People just want to see all these naked people in this movie.
Yeah. Immoral. I think it's, I don't know.
It's trying to tell a story.
And it's trying to, I think it's be like,
it's trying to tell a story.
And I feel like all the best films
be like,
and
here,
works of art. And I feel like all the best they just present things to you. Works of art.
Yeah.
Are. They just present
and
things
like,
to you.
Yeah.
And this presents a lot of things.
The other thing is that it's also, I have so much fun watching this movie. I mean, there's moments that aren't fun. There's a lot of things that are creepy too, you know, obviously we've mentioned it, like there's this rape, but there's also this like, there's a lot of unwanted sexual attention given to the main characters, even when, you know, it's like, yes, it's their job, but also they sign up for one thing. Like when she signs up to help promote this boat conference. And then it's like, well, what if we go back to my place afterwards? Or not even what if, it's we're gonna go back to my place afterwards. And that's, you know, it's like, that's not what she consented to. That's super gross and shitty. And then it's also gross and shitty when you know, Kyle, when Zach, the character, she like goes to him because he's the entertainment manager, and she's like, you know, this is what happened to me. And then he calls the guy and he's like, you know, don't ever do that again. And then she's like, yeah, thank you. And she walks off, and then he calls the guy again and be like, no, I'm whatever, do whatever you want. You know, like he knows about all this stuff going on, and he will put on a show to like seem like one of the good guys to get to sleep with Nomi. But also that scene where she sleeps with him, the pool scene, I don't like because she's like, because she gets this chance to audition for the understudy part for Crystal after that. And she's like, I just wanted to have fun. I didn't know about the audition. But I'm like, really? She, like...
Yeah, I was gonna say a camp aspect of Nomi is how she kind of performs this naivete and like sense of innocence and like not knowing what's going on, like especially when she pushes Crystal down the stairs.
Mm-hmm.
And then she's like, oh, I didn't know, she just fell. And then the other dancer who also sabotaged another dancer like backs her up.
Yeah.
And like, I'm not sure like where I was going with this, but basically they have to perform to get ahead in life.
Yeah. Not just on stage, on backstage too.
And then the shot of Crystal getting wheeled out to the ambulance is so funny to me. Like she's just strapped in, but with a full face of makeup. And then Nomi does the Kubrick stare in the darkness.
There's also a scene where Nomi wakes up with a full face of makeup too. Everything is fake in this movie. I also got distracted when I was talking. I wanted to say, I started talking about all the things that were gross and awful, but I wanted to talk about the thing that I truly love, which is we used it as our tangent to get into this episode and then didn't actually talk about it. The
Yuri.
The Yuri. The
toxic
gay.
Yuri of it all.
The toxic Yuri of it all. The this movie is fucking gay. Like, and I, like, it's, this, I mean, that's the plot that is also so me, where I love a story about specifically sapphic relationships, where it's that weird blur between, do I want to be her or do I want to be with her? And the main thing about this movie is that, like, Crystal is so attracted to Nomi. Like, you cannot read their scenes any other way. She is so into her. And the thing is, like, Nomi wants what she has, but in like constantly watching her and mimicking her and then sabotaging her, there is like that obsession is a kind of attraction.
And they also each got the lead in the same way, because when Crystal is in the hospital, she's like, how do you think I got the lead? Like, very much implying that she also pushed someone down the stairs.
Well, and Crystal also says that. She says, we're exactly alike.
Yeah.
Like, this is hanagram coded. Like,
I was also going to say reminiscent.
Oh, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Oh my God. There's so many moments that I love. I mean, they kiss. That's great. And this time I was just like, oh, this scene's so great. But I remember the first time I watched that, their scene, their goodbye. I was like emotionally affected because Crystal is tearing up. Like
It's also like this really dark acceptance of who they are as people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
Nomi also kind of takes up the crystal mantle with the hat.
Yeah. It's like
she is the new final boss.
it's like you yeah, because that's the thing. They're both like, it's the, do I want to be with you or do I want to be you? They kind of have what the other wants, by the end, like, and like, because Crystal has the status, but Nomi has the youth. And that's something about the gender of it all too, of like how, there's all these comments about how, Crystal's getting too old. Even though she looks fucking incredible, but it's entertainment biz, showbiz, baby. But oh my God, the lap dance scene. The lap dance scene, Fabiola. It's so good.
Even though she looks crazy, like Nomi looks crazy because she is being Nomi and just flailing and doing the most the entire time. But yeah, I also feel like the whole identity thing is very much an aspect of camp in the sense of like being in quotations.
Yeah. Well,
like in a way, by the end, Nomi has become quote unquote Crystal.
I mean, the whole film is things in quotations.
The film itself is in quotations. Like, this is what I've been saying. Like, this does not feel like a real movie. It's a quote unquote movie.
Well, I mean, there's everything about it is so structured. The fact that
it's kind of so structured, and yet a lot of the supporting cast motivations are so inconsistent, and the way they're characterized is so inconsistent. But like the general architecture is there, but the characters always need to be doing something wild.
The structure that I was referring to, which we kind of already referenced, was that the person that Nomi hitchhikes and gets a ride with at the start of the movie, and then tricks her into stealing her suitcase, is the person she hitchhikes to get a ride with out of the city.
Yeah.
And so she's able to, threaten to get her suitcase back.
Which kind of reinforces that, like, she's stuck in a cycle.
Yeah.
And how she technically, like, has not escaped, but if anything is just bringing this cycle into a larger stage.
Yeah. I also just realized something that I said earlier, that I had two references to, like, the movie telegraphing itself, and I only talked about the palm trees. So the other moment that I wanted to say, which is more of a subtle moment, but I think it's like really, really like an interesting visual, is when when Nomi she takes a taxi home from Zach's house, the entertainment guy's house. She just slept with him, and that will be something that helps her, get up. Even though she's like, oh, it's not just for pleasure. It's for, a kind of work that she's doing for her career. The taxi that she takes has advertisements for the strip club that she used to work at.
Yeah.
It's still the same job. It's right there. It's like, this is the same
That's
job.
also
Even though
something
she's
that
moved
they,
up,
like, do very
it's
much
still the same job.
in dialogue. That's also something
In the
that
sense
they
that,
like do very much repeat in dialogue. Show and this in the sense that like the same thing but in different outfits. Show and this strip club are essentially the same thing but in different outfits.
Yeah.
And like, judging by the ending of the film, it could be also an argument that Hollywood is also the same thing.
I mean, yeah. Yeah.
And like again, like back to what I said at like the beginning of our discussion, the way that men and women are characterized, it kind of posits that like fundamentally this is how the world works and how gender is structured, like regardless of occupation or where you live. Like this is the fundamental truth of our society.
You see, darling, you are a whore.
So I have 2 questions for you. What is your favorite outfit / fashion moment? And what is your favorite over-the-top line reading of any of the characters?
It's so hard to pick fashion moment because they're all so good.
Yeah.
And I need to know where their Oscar is.
Yeah.
Like, the production design of this is incredible.
Yeah.
Like, the production design alone is like overstimulating.
Also, you know what I don't think people talk about enough? The fucking score.
Oh, it's so good. It's so good. I was literally listening to it yesterday.
Yeah. I need to listen to it more often, but you thought of something?
I feel like the usual goddess costumes are a classic, and especially like the goddess look of the glitter in the hair and the gems in the eyes.
So, yeah. Is there a favorite like segment of the show, you think? Because there's like the volcano set, there's the
I like the volcano set, but I like the biker segment.
Yeah, I was gonna say the biker segment is my favorite too. Do we see? Wait, there's 4 because there's the volcano and then there's another one.
There's like the diamondy one.
Yeah. Well, is that the last one where she like ascends into the heavens? Also, I want to shout out. I kind of really like the look that Nomi wears to go beat up the Andrew Carver guy. Yeah. Also, I'm pretty sure she's wearing cheetah print.
In terms of like not show costumes, the one I'm thinking of currently to be my favorite is the one in her last scene of like the shiny tiger print top and the and crystals hat.
Yeah. Crystal's outfits are iconic too.
Yeah.
I
love this movie's dedication to bedazzled cowboy jackets.
Yeah. I actually, for our patrons, they get to see, I did a last minute glittery makeup look because I had makeup on my desk and 15 minutes before Fabiola sent me the link, so I was just playing around.
I also have my Barbie shirt on.
Yeah!
Which feels fitting.
Yeah.
Nomi's like Joker Barbie. 90s Joker Barbie.
Yeah.
Like, that is literally her vibe.
Like, actual, but like people say, like, oh, like, that's something that they're Joker, Joker coded. Like, actually Joker coded, though.
Like, Elizabeth Berkley's performance is just unhinged.
Yeah. I mean, she does not hesitate to push Crystal down the stairs.
Yeah.
What about favorite line readings?
The entire doggy chow scene is insane. But I would also like to add favorite Nomi action.
Oh.
To me, my favorite Nomi action is when she throws all her fries.
Yeah.
She just literally throws all of them.
Yeah. Also, I know it's America, but the sodas that they have in that scene are the biggest fucking sodas I've ever seen.
I love them.
This movie's America.
She's also just like throwing the ketchup on the fries, and then she throws the fries.
Yeah. I don't think we've been clear that this is like, we're talking about like, you know, capitalism and sexuality and stuff. It's very like, I mean, Paul Verhoeven, he's
Dutch?
Yeah.
He's Dutch.
And like people like, you know,
and
like
he was
people
around during World War II. He's
A
also
lot
a
of-
Jesus scholar. That's my favorite fun fact about Paul Verhoeven. He's very much a Jesus scholar, and he needs to make a movie about Jesus.
I mean, he did one about nuns.
Yeah.
But yeah. Which, can I say, I feel like that's the mellowest of his films that I've
Benedetta.
seen. Yeah.
Benedetta is like if Flesh and Blood and Showgirls were combined. In the sense that it has like the medieval setting, but it's also girl boss slay.
But its aesthetic is more subdued, is what I remember.
Yeah, the look is very subdued.
But there is a dildo made from a cross.
The Virgin Mary.
Oh, it's the Virgin Mary. It's not a cross.
At least I think so.
Right. But anyway, what was I saying before this? Oh, that this is a very, like, Showgirls is a very much like a critique of American capitalism and hypersexuality through the lens of this, you know, silent generation Dutch man.
But it also like what makes it quintessentially camp is that it also really likes to watch those things that it's critiquing. Like it's very much having fun with the look, and it's just a fun movie to look at.
Yeah. My favorite line reading, which is not a Nomi line reading, is thrust it! Thrust it!
What's your favorite Nomi action?
Favorite Nomi action? The way she throws herself onto Molly's car at the very beginning.
Yeah.
Oh,
she does it twice. She at least throws herself onto cars twice.
Yeah. Also, it's not quite as memorable a dance, but I did make the note that the way she dances in the club is very Shiv Roy coded, and that one scene in Succession where she's just like letting loose on the dance floor and she thinks she's dancing, but is like, what is she, girl, what are you doing?
Thinks she's slaying, or she thinks she's slaying, but she just looks crazy.
Yeah. There is one single, and this is the line that I was like, this is ChatGPT line. There's one single line that I am hung up on, which is, what the fuck does the everyone has AIDS and shit line mean? What does he mean? Like, what does that mean? In the context of that scene, it doesn't make sense.
It like weirdly makes sense in the context of the 90s, but the way he says it, it just comes out of nowhere. Another thing that was like chat GPT vibes is it's the first time that Nomi is on the goddess stage and Molly and Gay are watching her perform. And at one point she almost falls, and then Molly is like, oh no. And then we come back to her to Nomi slaying, and then we come back to Molly being like, yeah. Like they have to tell us whether something is good or bad.
Hey, are you saying that every time I go and perform or do a piece of art, you aren't watching my every move and saying, no, yeah, do anything I'm doing?
How else will the audience know that almost falling down is bad?
You burn when you dance.
Yeah, you said I couldn't.
Oh, you gotta hold some of it in. And you got some shit to learn. Dancing ain't fucking.
What's that? More wisdom? I know that.
No, you don't. You dance like when you fucked that guy last night.
What guy?
That guy with the chick. You took him in the back.
I didn't fuck him.
Yeah, you did. You fucked him and her.
Are you following me around? I didn't fuck anybody.
I saw you. Man, everybody got AIDS and shit. You know, what is it that you think you do? You fuck them without fucking them. That's what you do. Well, it ain't right. You got too much talent for it to be right.
I feel like we should maybe like talk a bit about the planned ethos of this season.
Yeah, I like that.
Because I feel like
and then
this
I also have
helps, the Showgirls helps set it up a bit.
Yeah, Showgirls absolutely does. So the ethos of this season, there's kind of like two kinds of media that we are planning on watching.
But they all kind of have a similar vibe slash theme slash undercurrent.
Yeah. So we're going to be watching a lot of camp classics. We always throw camp classics in.
Yeah. But like this season especially.
That, and we're also going to be watching and discussing some television, because there's some shows that we're watching that we want to discuss. And we've mentioned House of the Dragon. One of them is also Interview with the Vampire. And I think I had a thought, because I was rewatching season 1 of Interview with the Vampire, that one of the themes that I'm seeing this season is that there's an element of cruelty to it.
Yeah.
And Showgirls is a great example of that, because it's like, it's rough. And I think that that's like something that is like, I'm really interested in getting into, because my tastes have grown darker, I guess. Like, I really like, I think that there's something really interesting, and I think that it's also worth discussing of like, how do you watch something and have fun watching something that also shows things that are hard to watch?
And also like how those things could be camp.
Yeah, exactly. I was rereading, actually. Oh my god, wait, give me a moment so I can find the right quote. So in the article that we discussed in the very first episode of It's Giving Camp, it was the 5 scholars discuss Sontag, the Met Gala, and Camp's queer origins. It was the first scholar, Carmen Merpo Quinez? I can't, my Spanish name pronunciation is bad. The first one who's in the first critic, a scholar who writes, at the end of their section was talking about, quote, 21st century resurgence of camp may not only encourage us to believe ourselves to be more, quote, woke than we are, but might also provide an ally for all manner of cultural colonization. So maybe the question for us now is really about how to camp responsibly, since we are all already camping. And, and then the end of that quote is, as we approach the Met Gala and exposition, it is worth asking what objects or phenomenon are fair game for the contemporary camp connoisseur. And I think that's such an interesting question to also consider for kinds of cruelty. And like obvious, like, because anything can be put in quotes. Anything can be performed. I don't know. And I think that there could be, could you call a minstrelsy? There is potentially a danger and to showing things. I think it's like that is like, you know, things that are real. I think that there harm, could be, but if you abstract them in a certain way, does that actually is potentially a perpetuate that harm to obviously also perpetuating things, you know, and performing identities that is in a way that is that are like outside not of okay, you know, like and you know, things that are real and can cause harm. But if you abstract them, you know, I think there could be a scholar who could watch Showgirls and say, it's obviously also perpetuating, not, like, you know, it's performing identities. It's dangerous to have this really violent rape not okay, in this you know, like, is also and about also like that in some ways taking joy in excess. But and so, you know, I think there could be a scholar who could watch Showgirls and say it's like finding, not, you know, it's like dangerous to have this stuff really violent and finding out in this like, movie that is also what does about it like to in some ways taking joy in excess, depict cruelty without being cruel to the subjects or the audience, if that makes sense, or at least being safely like. Anyway, I don't know actually if I had finished reading / I listened to it on audiobook, but by the time we were recording, or if I had started it when we were recording last summer, and if I had I don't think I finished it, but probably the biggest influential piece of media actually that I engaged with last year was The Art of Cruelty by Maggie Nelson. So cruelty is something that's a few
years ago. So you'd probably have it more fresh.
Yeah, I bought it actually. I have the book right here. Here it is. It's so good.
That's also my the copy favorite. I have.
Oh, this is so and she talks about camp in here. She actually, what I mainly remember her talking about is Pink Flamingos, which I don't know if we'll watch this season, but I definitely want to watch at some point. But anyway, I just think it's interesting, and there's a lot to pick apart. This is a book that is very much like, let's just talk about a bunch of things and doesn't have answers, which I love. It's such a great book in that regard. And she definitely says her opinion about some stuff, but she's always like, this is my opinion. This makes me feel bad. But a lot of times she's also like, why does that make me feel bad? Why doesn't that elicit this response in me? Was that the creator's intent? What does it mean that was their intent? You know, which I think is one of the things that we can do on this show.
Yeah. We arguably have been already doing it in terms of like discussing camp itself.
Yeah, I mean, I'm thinking about our discussion of Romeo and Juliet, our discussion of Grey Gardens, and when did we discuss true crime? We discussed true crime at some point. We talked about female trouble. That's right.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's my little ramble. Was there another theme that you were also thinking of?
I think we're both like on the same page in terms of themes and undercurrents. I was also thinking duos.
Yeah.
There's a lot of duos this season.
Like in in the works that we are watching, there are representations
Yes.
of mirror images in some ways.
Like not just mirror images, but also like iconic pairings, foils, parallels.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm excited.
I think I keep saying this every season, but like one of the things that really intrigues me about camp and like an aspect of camp that I really want to keep delving into is like the darkness of it. Since a lot of camp did essentially arise from a sense of oppression and trying to find joy and fun in otherwise not joyous and fun places. And I feel like a lot of notions of camp have lost that aspect of it, even though I keep saying that. But yeah, well, we need to return.
That's, I think, a reason why Barbie doesn't work for me as well. Like Barbie the movie, you know, that came out last summer. Like Barbie's camp, but like
it's not me.
Oppenheimer is also camp, and I liked Oppenheimer more because Oppenheimer was grappling with the darkness, and Barbie was kind of trying to talk about, you know, how gender is socialized, and there's
Barbie's
some darkness,
mainly about the human condition, but Oppenheimer is about how all these scientists with beef also created the nuclear bomb and killed millions of people.
Yeah. Oh, I can't wait to discuss about the cruel origins with also like having fun and being camp with, but I'm a cheerleader.
Oh,
That's gonna be a good. God, we really. This is a banger season. We've got some good selections this season. Yeah.
Yeah, partly because I feel like this season is like mostly camp classics, but also mostly our little shows we want to talk about.
Yeah. Including I am gonna be subjected to your hyper focus, your special interest that isn't House of the Dragons, the one that's worse.
Oh yeah. Well, I would argue the hyper focus on House of the Dragon is worse in terms of intensity.
Yeah,
but the piece of media, in the sense, it is worse.
I'm fine.
The piece of media itself is what's worse.
I'm talking about the experience of watching the piece of media, because I'm fine watching House of the Dragons. You just tell me about all of your feelings, and you tell me about all the fandom stuff, and I'm like, wow, that's a lot. I'm chill. I'm normal. Meanwhile, I do not know what watching South Park is gonna do to me and how that's gonna make me feel. Like, be prepared. We might have a Tommy situation on our hands again.
Do the listeners know what the Tommy situation is?
We've told this story before, right?
I'm not sure.
Okay, in case you're brand new, or we haven't. Fabiola loves Tommy, who's directed it again? It's this guy
Ken Russell.
Right, Ken Russell. It's the movie for the concept album by The Who, and Fabiola loves it, and it's like one of her biggest like inspirations, like aesthetically. It's on a bunch of your like inspo lists, and I can see why you like it. I just hate it so much because it makes me feel so gross. I don't like it, even though anyway, it's like so ableist, and like that's the point, kind of, but it also like it's like very exploitative, it feels like, and I'm watching this exploitation happen with like just pure maximalist aesthetic, and it was overwhelming. You know what? Me watching Tommy is probably how some people feel watching Showgirls.
Yeah. Yeah. It's very, very possible and real.
That's enough. Thank you, ladies.
The other thing I was thinking about that I don't know if this is would be too long of a discussion, but it was on my mind with this film. It's Paul Verhoeven, and I was thinking about how we have like Paul Verhoeven is this icon of camp and filth and excess, and I was thinking about how
like
there's a bunch
specifically on satire.
Yeah, but I was thinking about how I think we even had like you did like a kind of tongue-in-cheek Father's Day post at one point.
Yes.
And it's like, oh, there's like Verhoeven, and there's also like, I feel like obviously John Waters. You could say Cronenberg is also like kind of in this realm of sleaze. I would, we've also talked about on the show, I would say like James Gunn and Ryan Murphy could also fall into this category.
Kenneth Anger, who we still haven't covered yet.
I know. But basically, I was thinking, I was like, I'm thinking of all these auteurs, basically. And I was like, these are all men. Why am I only thinking of men for like camp icons as like directors and like storytellers? And
Most
then I was like,
the film industry is men historically. That's not...
But I was also then thinking about like how there's a bunch of like there are female and femme camp icons, but they're like more so the stars, or they're like these divas, like Judy Garland, Joan Crawford, and I want to kind of, we have talked about some who are also like producers and like they are producing their own self-image, like Jane Mansfield and Elvira to a certain extent too, but I was like, these are all white. These people are all white. So
I've talked about Grace Jones and Diana Ross.
That's true. That is true. Grace Jones and Diana Ross. I mean, I would also add Gina Gershon to the list of camp icons, but she's also white. But anyway, I wanted to point that out, to bring up that I feel like definitely, as you're saying, it's an industry thing that like certain people are going to be uplifted and get the resources and have more, make more stuff. But I also want to be aware of my own bias, and I want to try to watch more stuff and have more examples. So, that's something I think for this season too, is because I know we're still slightly figuring out all the stuff. Having more women and non-binary people to, I mean, we'll be talking about Emma Darcy. But also more people of color. I think that's something that we should be paying attention to. Yeah. So, but I know we're going to be discussing Greg Araki. I'm so excited for that film, and also more international films. We got The End of Eternity last year, but more non-English speaking. But we've only got 15 episodes a season, so we can do what we can. But there's so much to explore, and that's exciting. That's exciting, and I'm excited to to watch stuff that I haven't seen before for this season.
Yeah, I've always felt like this is a never-ending podcast because there is just so much to cover
I know.
out in the world.
I know. I mean, and now that I'm like better understanding, like I have like a more clear understanding of camp with each passing day, I keep watching films going, oh, wait, that's camp. Wait, this is interesting. Fabiola, we should add this to the list. But it's like, I also want us to like be watching stuff that we can have an interesting discussion about and like say things that people haven't necessarily said before. And I think Showgirls is a movie that is talked about a lot, but it's a good introduction to us talking about some things this season in this vein of cruelty that maybe don't get discussed as much as others.
Yeah. Yeah, like it's a classic for a reason.
Yeah.
And I was also thinking of wrapping up this episode with this quote also from the round table.
Yeah.
Which is, when Bart wrote Myths Today, he believed in a painstaking application of semiotics to capitalist culture would demystify the workings of bourgeois ideology. By the time he gets to SC, Bart is still interested in exploring and exploding bourgeois cliches, platitudes, and doxa. But crucially, he no longer feels the need to justify his critical excursions as a path to political enlightenment. The Bart of SC and the pleasure of the text is interested in only one thing: the pleasures to be had when a really smart person visits his or her critical prowess with extreme violence on otherwise unremarkable and even moronic texts. This is where we arrive after the fourth and possibly all subsequent screenings of Showgirls. Is the film bad, good, racist, sexist, Brechtian, radical, reactionary? Who cares to answer such unknowable and ultimately unimportant questions? It is enough that Showgirls exists to indulge our intoxication with its sublime catastrophes.
Yeah. Yeah. That's it. That's such a good quote. Sometimes it doesn't matter what a film represents because the discussion about what it could represent is what it represents.
Yeah. And I feel like we're going to see that a lot this season.
Yeah. Woo! I have been your co-host, Saffron Hefta-Gaub. You can follow me online everywhere at Gaub Hefta.
And I've been your other co-host, Fabiola. You can find me on Instagram at Fabi0LAHH and on Twitter at Fabiola_Liano.
Our theme song that you're bobbing your head to right now is by Harrison Lurie.
Give us a rating on Spotify and a review on Apple.
Thank you to our patrons, Nicole Veneto, Jose Liano, and Pericles Sparrow. Please check our episode description for additional links and citations.
Thank you so much.